Hi and hello, Denny.
Hi.
I have here Denny van Eyck with me, and Denny is living in Rotterdam and is a branch manager from Marpro. And it's weird for us to talk in English because we're both Dutch,
Yep.
so it's a bit strange. Um, but hi and a warm welcome. And
Thank you.
Today we're going to do a special video for you, and it's about micromanagement. And I'm working with people in toxic environments to strive and thrive in toxic work environments. And one of the most toxic environments you can have is being under micromanagement. And I want to invite Denny to talk a bit about that and what your experience are with that. And tell us first a bit about what industry you're from.
Yeah, well, I've been working in the maritime industry for 26 years right now. Started my career in the health and safety, the fire safety corner of the health and safety environment, mostly working on fire extinguishing systems as well as life-saving equipment. But quickly went on in my career to organize events for the maritime industry. So I was the sales manager for the Europort exhibition, both in the Netherlands as well as in foreign countries. Well, basically started my own company last year after having spent almost 12 years within the maritime field. I'm sorry, within the exhibition field. Just a small sidestep in between, but it wasn't to my liking. So I quickly figured that it was time to move on to greener pastures and work for myself, basically. So yeah, that's how I ended up with my own company, and also representing Marpro for the Netherlands is part of that.
Is for quite a career move as well, and quite an impressive resume you're having in there as well. And I love for you to talk to us about your experience to help other people with thriving in toxic work environments. And we both have from the maritime industry as well with dealing with micromanagement, and it's what we want to go through a little bit of a system, like what are the signs of micromanagement? How do you recognize you actually have a micromanager under you? And so what, according to you, what did you see? Do you have any experience?
Well, I've had quite a horrible experience with micromanagement myself in my career when I actually moved to a different company after my work for Europort. And it was quite immediately apparent that that company was suffering because of it. There was indeed a very toxic work environment that established itself within the company. I myself was unable to break through in that instance. It is something that I should have picked up on earlier, but did not. But well, it is also something that a lot of people will probably at first let slide and think it's just part of the beginning of a new career. It's part of learning a new job, and it might only become apparent once you're there for a longer time that this is actually something that is structural and is creating a toxicity in the business.
Yes, that's a very good point, that you think if you're there for a new job, that you think it's part of the job, part of learning, especially when it's under micromanagement. You think, no, you just have to get to know the people around there a bit.
Absolutely.
And then
you're new, right? So
you're new.
You have to find out how things work within the company. So you might think, well, this is a weird way to train someone. Well, it's just training. We'll see. And then once you're in 2 or 3 months and you're like, no, this is not changing. It's actually getting worse. Well, basically, you're too late at that point. You've been with the company for 3 months, and you're basically stuck for a little while. And that's how I found myself within a company that was actually suffering quite badly from micromanagement. And well, I mean, you said, are there any signs to look out for? I think it's a matter of trust. If you don't get the trust you think you deserve within a company, if someone constantly is trying to push control over everything you do, it's a little bit like a helicopter parent who's constantly hovering over your shoulder, trying to basically do the work for you instead of letting you be the best you in that instance. So, and those are all things that actually start with a normal onboarding process. Someone is actually helping you out, and someone is trying to get you acquainted with the systems and the things that you're working on. So it's quite difficult to make that distinction.
Yeah, so it's basically a lack of trust. And
I think it is. Yeah.
You start out with all the normal basic introductions for your work, or you're just going through the steps, and there's a lack of trust. So there's a lack of growth as well. And potentially,
Absolutely.
if you don't recognize that there is a lack of trust coming from micromanagement, I can imagine it will do your self-esteem quite a lot of harm if you think, oh, is there something I've not doing properly?
And the fun thing is, or the weird thing is that it's actually all a matter of self-esteem. It's also a matter of low self-esteem for the person that is using this micromanagement technique, because it's usually people that are quite insecure, or maybe in a crisis of personality, are afraid of others within the company, maybe having an edge over them. So they desperately try to keep others down and make themselves more important than they should be.
Yes,
and I'm careful to say not more important than they are, because usually they've been made quite important within a company.
It's strange, isn't it? Why do you think that is, that people, they shouldn't be in that position in the first place, but they probably they do have, they're quite workaholics a lot of the time. They take on a lot of responsibility, and why are they? But it's very harming for their team they're managing.
No,
but it's not being acknowledged.
No, and one of the reasons I think, and I'm not an expert here, but to my well, for reflecting it on my experience, it's often a fact that management is used within a lot of companies as a reward, instead of something that people actually deserve or that they're actually good at. So instead of making someone a manager who is actually a good manager, they make someone a manager who's good at their job, which has no management aspects. They tell them, well, yeah, you've been working for us for such a long time, you're doing such a good job, how would you like to be a manager? Because it's often seen as something that is or rewarding, or something that is in fact the next step in someone's career. It often ends up with someone being in a position where they're basically not suitable for, and that is something that is harmful for companies, I guess. Because they do end up with situations where a certain mid-manager or middle manager is not capable of running the company or running the branch the way it should have been run.
Not every manager has very good people skills, or
absolutely,
and that's like one of the main issues that a lot of people have, especially for micromanaging. Like I have
especially. Yeah, go ahead.
A client that quit his job over micromanagement as well, and he was in middle management, and his general manager was managing his team on his behalf because he was like very controlling, and the staff didn't really know who to listen to. Well, you're going through the hierarchy game, so you have to listen to the general manager. But it really reflects really badly on the middle manager who's actually taking care of his team in his own way. And he said after a while, the micromanage was a really a friendly person. Was nothing in that personality that you, from the outside, you could see there was something wrong. And it was just not something he could talk about or could fix. So the company lost eventually, out of lack of progress for him in his career, lost a very valuable manager. And
it's quite hard as well to basically put someone in a management position, still be happy with the work they do, but not be happy with their management style. How do you go about basically getting someone back to where they were without having them feel it being a demotion?
Yes.
And that is something that happens quite often. Once people are in a management position, anything less than that management position will feel like they've been demoted. Whereas it could also have been more of a focus on the strength of that person within the company. It's quite a difficult thing, and often the people that are doing this micromanagement, they tend to be people that work very hard. But they are also people that that have a problem with change, and people doing things differently than they would do it. So they tend to constantly keep their, well, like I said, their helicopter view over the people they work with. They are very well, they're not easy to relinquish control. They're not easy to give trust. They want to be in the loop of everything that happens. CC culture is a different part of that, where we constantly try to keep tabs on everything that happens, but also the constant reporting that people need to do within companies that are ruled by micromanagement. It's one Excel list after the other, and that can cause tremendous amounts of extra work. It can also cause a lot of demotivation for people that are working within such companies.
Yes, it can be very damaging to people's health, not just for the career, but also to your health. If you're not aware of the signs and you don't know, it's like, especially when you're younger or you're new to a company and you're really eager to do your job, or you like your job, or you want to make something out of your career like that. And you might think it's about you. And especially if you're always a junior to a micromanager, if it's your manager within a team, that's somehow our culture as well. And
someone that does micromanage also, well, as a general rule, tend to be disappointed with everything anyone else does, no matter how much they try, because it's never the same as it would be if they were doing it. And it doesn't mean if it's better or worse, but it's not the same, so it's not good enough. And that is something that is also very demotivating for people who are within a situation like that, because you are not that other person.
And it's often that when you realize it's not about you and you're not going to get any better from it, it's often too late for your own health.
Oh yeah, it is.
Your job where you're working in. That's why it's such a toxic environment, and that's what's one of the main toxic work environments to be in, because you don't recognize it. If you're being bullied, it's often quite in your face. But if it's micromanagement, it's very subtle. It's often they're master manipulators for life.
They're doing it out of love, is what they tend to think. Whether it's for the love of the company, for the love of the branch or whatever, they never do it for themselves. They always do it for the company, is what they think they're doing. And it's also quite hard to break through those environments when you look at, for instance, higher management, because they often don't recognize that this is going on. And if they do, they have a hard time stopping it.
Yes, because they delegate the work, of course, to their managers, and if their money coming in every month, and
they get the feedback from those managers only.
And they're normally quite normal personalities. You don't really see it from the outside looking in. You don't really recognize it a lot. What I noticed, that a lot of micromanagers, because they have such a severe personality disorder, they're often not have narcissistic traits, personality traits. So they don't even themselves are often, they're not aware that there are micromanagers.
No, but you know, the big problem with narcissists is that they tend to not view themselves as narcissists. They tend to view themselves as normal people, and everyone else is wrong. And especially once they're in a position of well, relative power, they tend to exploit that, and they tend to not understand why everybody is so against them, because they're quick to jump into that victim role.
Yes, they are very good in scanning the environment to see which way the direction will go and how they
they can manipulate very well.
Manipulate that. And if you're like if you're going into like, oh, you know, how can we can see how we can recognize micromanagement, that's like serious lack of trust, lack of delegation. They probably call you and email you, sending emails at 3 a.m. in the morning as well.
Oh, especially with everyone in the CC, so everybody can see how busy they are.
Yes, that's like one of the traits. And you see, like, we know how damaging it is to your mental health as well as to your career. And it's often not recognized. People might be watching, think, oh, you know, I think maybe I have a micromanager. And there are certain things you can do, like you can try to talk to them first of all. But often that is like what I've noticed as well, like a personal experience. They are very charming if they want to be, and they promise you the world, and they don't know they are micromanagers, so you cannot just jump on them and say, hey.
They don't even understand what micromanagement is, I think, because if you would explain it to them, they would probably just think that is what being a manager is. I mean, you could try to make an effort for them to understand. Surely, you can talk to them about how their behavior makes you feel, because they often are not aware of that. At the same time, if someone has been doing it for a very long time and has been successful in doing that for a very long time, it might be very difficult to change someone. It might even be impossible to change someone.
Yes.
It's hard to handle that, because in the beginning you also said how to even try to thrive in a toxic work environment. My experience thus far within my career is that that's hardly possible. And something needs to thoroughly change within a company in order for there to be change down the entire chain. But hey, I know instances where we did courses and we went out and did team building exercises, and that person was by far the most ambitious and the most likable person in that session. And then we got back to the office, and well, then the mask fell again. So it's often like we said before, these are very insecure people, and sometimes that can translate into them being very antisocial.
Yes, it's a good point what you said. They're just, the mask comes on.
Oh yeah.
They know, you know, we like to think they're bad people, and they are for us when we are working for them. But if you just go into their world and make an effort to see what kind of person it is, or, you know, there's always a trauma somewhere in their life that triggers micromanagement, and it's a lack of trust. Indeed, they have a difficulty in they have a very low self-esteem, so that's why it's so close to having narcissistic personality disorders. And I say disorder because it's really hard to treat as well, to treat this disorder as well, because they don't know they have it. And if you know your company has all the right figures, because they are extremely hard workers, it's really hard to do something, because how do you make a case. A lot of only if all the employees they're working with go en masse with one case and have one voice towards, say, HR, then you have a solid foundation. But often it's just one or two that are willing to sacrifice their position.
Well, there are some people that actually get to the point where they also believe that this is just a normal work environment. And this is what happens when you work for a company. You have a superior who basically tells you what to do, and you do it. And they don't mind being second guessed at every turn, or having their hand held through everything they do. There are some people that find comfort in that. It's just not people like myself who actually enjoy being somewhat of a free spirit and trying to get the best out of their career for themselves. And looking at that, you might end up in a situation where you actually come home at night and talk to your spouse and you say, am I the one that's crazy? And it will take you a while before you find out it's not you who's crazy. It's just that that company is run in a way that's totally doesn't match with your personality. Yeah, like you said, it can be quite it can be quite a disorder, this micromanagement, and it can be quite a an experience to be amongst people that just find it the absolute most normal thing in the world.
It's very lonely. It's a very lonely affair when you're at work and nobody else recognizes it. I remember saying that I was struggling with it myself, and I was like a famous coffee machine ranting towards another friend who was at work there, and he's like, "What are you talking about? He's the most fantastic guy I've ever seen. He's so helpful, and he's always helpful for other people, and the joker of the department." And think, oh my God, is it just me? Am I just being difficult? It's the same.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what they get to do, though. They get you to doubt yourself. And even when you're absolutely 100% certain that you are not the one to blame, you might still get to the point where they make you doubt that again.
Yes.
So yeah, that happened. That happened to me. That happened to a lot of people, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very damaging to your self-esteem. And often, like you said, like once you figure that out, it's actually not you. You are already down a path that you think there's no way back. I can't really, something needs to happen. And if you cannot talk about it to the micromanagement in question or the general management, and it's really hard for yourself on your own to change a culture within a company, especially if you're the new one.
You're not going to do it. Also, you're not getting paid to do that.
No.
And there's not enough money in the world for you to get paid to do that. Because that is something that is, well, I wouldn't want to be in the shoes of people trying to actually have that breakthrough and still stay within that company.
Because
I think you would have to knock some heads.
It's a shame because people think they don't have a choice, or they maybe watching and think, it is all fine, but I can't really change my job or career. But you will have to make a choice. What's more important for you?
I think a lot of people should be way more brave and just back up and leave at that point. And we live, fortunately for us, you and I, we live in a society where there is a safety net that can help you out in doing that. But I mean, even then, your mental health is worth a lot more, and your health in general is worth a lot more than your paycheck, if you ask me. And if you're a good worker, you will find another job where you won't have to deal with that, even if it takes a year or two, or maybe half a year. But it will be something that in the end will be for the better. At least that is my experience. Yeah,
I agree with you. I find it really hard when I was making this list for the presentation, like, what are the things that people can do? It's quite standard talking, going into the effort of understanding the micromanager, and that's all well up to a certain point. But if it's that damaging for your career and your mental health, there are options, and people are really scared to change careers or to change their jobs because they cannot see what's beyond the horizon. And I think maybe in another job, it might be the same, maybe it's me,
Yeah.
but it's really important. If you recognize the signs, talk to somebody and know that it's 100% not your fault. It's an issue, it's a personality disorder that is with the person, and they're quite charming persons. They are not bad persons. It has their own past issues, and it's
absolutely.
Absolutely 100% their journey, and they're not
and they're often
people
thrust into a position where they're not comfortable themselves.
No, they're
so I don't think
they
and I don't think they're having a good time in their employment. So
no. So the best thing is to do, if you love yourself enough, then I would also, like, I can never speak for somebody else, but it was my experience. It was for mental health reasons, better just to leave and than to fight the battle at work. So it's
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, if enough people do that, then a company itself might end up seeing the signs on the wall as well, and might say, hey, this is person 6 that's leaving now because of this. We need to do something about this.
Hopefully.
But
it's still
fighting
difficult.
that intense battle internally, and I wouldn't be the one to do that. I tried, and it was too big an effort for me. Yeah,
there's a lot of toxic work environment issues, but this is one of the biggest ones that people come across, and it's very hard. If you, of course, do first go and try to go through the steps, see if you can talk about it, so you can earn their trust. If you have a job and the career is not that important for you, but you're just going for an established paycheck every month, and it's okay. Focus on the facts. See if you can if they could give you a checklist that, like, they might be satisfied with the absolute control of a checklist. And there are always things that you can do, but I would still recommend talk to somebody, to somebody with experience with that. You can just find a shoulder, just to reflect on what your experiences are. And if you are, knowing that you're not crazy will help and benefit your mental health enormously.
I absolutely agree, Țirincă.
So, well, I just hope people watching, they find that really helpful, and I find it really useful to talk to you, and I thank you very much. There's a lot more to it than this, and I think it's such a big topic as well. You could talk.
I think we only scratched the surface, but I'm very curious to hear what others who are watching this, what they have experienced, and maybe they can discuss it below the video. It would be interesting.
Yes, please do discuss it below the video, and we're interested to hear your opinion. So I wish you a very good day, or tot ziens.
Okay, tot ziens. Thank you.